I was watching the UFC Fight Night card last night. Jared Cannonier taking on Gregory Rodriguez, also known as RoboCop. And when I was watching the fight last night, I kind of realized to myself, like, wow, MMA has seriously declined. The UFC has seriously put on fights that, like, no one really cares about. And here's the thing. The fight last night was actually really good. Jared Cannonier was losing the first round, getting beat up, comes back in the second round, puts it on in the third round against RoboCop, and then knocks him out in the fourth round. Great fight. But even when it was over, I was thinking to myself, dang, I don't really care what happens next. I don't care who Jared Cannonier fights next. I don't care who RoboCop fights next. Like, I just don't care. There is no more rivalries. There is no more anticipation for fight cards. Even the fight nights that are every single week, there's barely one or two good fights where there's true rivalries or animosity where you're like, oh my God, this fighter doesn't like this fighter left this gym. Like, there's none of that. It's just, here's a fight, watch it, and then 7 days later, oh, Song Yadong versus Henry Cejudo in Seattle, majority of the card fell off, but because we have 40 other fight night cards, we can't move things around, so you're stuck with a great main event, but everything else under it is crap. It's crap. Like, if we look at 2024, I can honestly say the last fight I truly cared about, which happened in October, was Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. And that entire card was great because it was, Abu Dhabi, but that was it. That was in October. Why are we in February? And since then, I'm just like, I don't really care about any fights. Obviously, we can't help that Arman Tsarukyan and Islam didn't happen. That was supposed to be a great fight. And sometimes it is the fighter's fault. It's Arman's fault. He pulled out of the fight. It's his fault that we missed out on a potential fight of the year, a great fight card. But when it does happen, it's like, dang, we are stuck with crap. If we look at 2024, Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway, great fight. Let's look at before that. Let's go to June. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Great fight. But why was it a great fight? It was because we had emotions put into the fight. Can Dustin Poirier finally win a belt? Can he finally be the man where he's put it all in? He's worked hard. He's beaten tough fighters, beat Conor McGregor. He's beaten all these great people. Can he finally put it together and beat Islam Makhachev? So there was hope. There was emotions put into the fight. So we were ready and hyped up for the fight, for the pay-per-view. Before that, UFC 300, it was stacked from the first fight to the main event. Other than those three events, those three fights and the card, it just feels like we're not really that excited anymore for fight night cards or fight cards in general. Like, let's look at last weekend, UFC 312. It was crap. Besides the main event, Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland, and even that fight was kind of like, we didn't really need to see this. Like, looking back on it, it was like, why are we watching this fight? It was kind of crap. Like, Sean Strickland doesn't change, and we were only really wanting the rematch because of press conferences and how we thought, Sean Strickland said it was the headbutt that caused this cut. Like, I'll run it back. The fight was really close. Besides that main event, 312 really wasn't that great. Zhang Weili beating the crap out of Tatiana Suarez, there wasn't really... It just didn't feel that great. Is it because the UFC charges $100 every pay-per-view fight, every pay-per-view card, and so we're slowly losing casuals, and so we're not really getting the overall audience feel? There isn't an open discussion where we're okay, who could win this? What's going on? I want to see this fight. I want to see that. We're not really getting that. Less people are watching the UFC, I feel like, or watching the pay-per-views at least. Less people are watching pay-per-views. We're still putting on 40-plus events a year, and majority of them are just filled with crap. We're not getting great fight night cards anymore. We're not really getting great pay-per-view cards anymore. And if we are, it's in Abu Dhabi because we have to only put on great events in other countries so that they give us money or sponsorships or whatever the case is. We're not really putting on that great of cards anymore. We're just not. And then it's also like rivalries. We're not putting on rivalries anymore. We're not traveling the world and doing these tour press conferences. We used to have tour the world for Nate Diaz and Conor, or Conor and Jose Aldo. Like, we're putting on a tour of press conferences. Why did we not do this with Ilya and Max? Why did we not travel the world and put on press conferences for these big fights? Like, we're losing viewership because of this. We're losing, like, emotions because of this. No one cares anymore. John Jones and Tom Aspinall. If that fight happens, I hope it does. If it happens, why? We're definitely not going to get a world tour press conference. Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to travel the world and have press conferences for this huge heavyweight fight. But why not? Like, this is what I mean by, like, the MMA is declining or the UFC is just getting lazy. We're just not doing it anymore. We're just putting on tons of fights every weekend. Some of them are great, but it's just like there's no meaning anymore. We're just like, oh, we gotta do Seattle. Even though Dominic Cruz pulled out of Rob Font, we're just gonna cancel the entire fight. So now we're stuck with Gene Silva's fighting Brendan Allen, Henry Cejudo. There's your top 3 fights. Other than that, that's it. After that UFC Fight Night card, we got Manuel Kopp fighting. Oh, Manuel Kopp, the guy who, I know he gets bad luck. He pulls out of, 10 UFC fights since 2020? Okay, UFC 313. We've got 3 great fights on that card so far. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Great fight. We've been wanting that for a long time. Co-main event, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker. Great fight. Third fight, Bruno Silva, Joshua Van. That's actually a fun flyweight fight. Other than that, and then we're getting Bobby Green and Ruffy fight. That fun fight. But other than that, we're not getting anything. UFC Fight Night after 313, we're getting Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze 2. Why are we getting this fight? Or why is it going to be a main event? Why are we declining? It's just we're getting overexposed, oversaturated with bullcrap fights. And then it's like, yes, the UFC owns majority of the MMA talent. They own 90% of the talent pool. Nobody's going to go over and watch ONE FC instead of UFC. It's not going to happen. No one's going to PFL and not watching UFC. It's just not happening. So the UFC can put on these crap events, crap fight night cards, because they can, because no matter what, people are still going to watch. And that is the sad reality that we're in. This is just a rant that I wanted to do, that MMA is just declining with, like, emotions involved. We're not getting good rivalries anymore. We're not getting press conference tours anymore. We're not putting on anticipated fights that we've been wanting to watch, besides maybe 2 or 3 out of the entire year. 365 days, and we're getting 2 days out of the entire year where we're like, I can't believe this is happening. Other than that, we're not really getting fight night cards anymore like that. We're just not. And that's the sad reality that we're in. UFC is too expensive for real fans. We're becoming oversaturated with these fight night cards. Instead of 46 cards a year, let's drop it down to like 35. Let's stop going to these Apex bullshit cards. Let's travel. Come back to UFC Charlotte. Let's go to UFC Raleigh, South Carolina, Nashville, New York, New Jersey, Texas. Like, let's travel. You have all this money. You're profiting all this money. You're not paying your fighters crap. Like, let's travel. Let's put on good fight night cards. If you're going to put on a bullshit fight night card, don't put it in Apex. At least put it in Raleigh or Charlotte, so I can go to it and pay $150 to watch the fights at least. At least travel to the state that you're going to go into, or where I live in, to at least let me watch the cards in person. Not sit at home and tell my friends, yo, yeah, Jared Cannonier versus RoboCop. Great fight. I mean, whoever wins this is going to be fighting, 4th or 5th. I'm so sick and tired of these terrible fight night cards. That was just a little rant. MMA is declining. I feel like we're not putting on good fights anymore. Matchmaking is kind of shit, and it's just, we're in a hole. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment what you think. Is MMA declining, or am I just aggravated? And subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.